Welcome to the podcast. I am hanging out with my friend Greg Zeschuk, owner and founder of Blind Enthusiasm. Sorry, let me do that again. Owner and founder of Blind Enthusiasm Brewing Company. How you doing, sir?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm great. Yeah, thanks for taking the time to be on the podcast. I find you to be an absolutely fascinating human being, so I'm excited to have this
Thank you.
conversation.
Yeah. Well, feelings mutual. I love. I saw one of your podcasts, or someone did a podcast on you, and you've had a few past lives as well. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I was saying before we hit record, like I'm looking at all the stuff you've done. It's just like, how many lives has this guy led? And I always struggle with podcasts. Like, hey, where should we start? Because I'm really fascinated with what you're doing right now. But I actually want to start with you, kind of maybe start at the beginning of your journey, because how you got to where you are is very fascinating. So I'd love to kind of hear your kind of thoughts on how you ended up weaving through all the different lives that you've had and ended up where you are. So if that's okay, let's start with you being a medical doctor.
Yeah. No, that's a funny one. So yeah, no, I trained. So I'm born in Edmonton. And when I was growing up, I kind of did well in school. So I thought, well, what are the careers you can do? And I thought, I did really want to be a doctor. I when I was younger, and I like helping people and working with people, and I did like a little kind of like high school, this little internship. A friend of mine's dad was a doctor, and I went and hung out with them and for a day. And I ended up saying, okay, I'm going to try to go to medical school. And I like to point out to people that I went to medical school in the day when it was easy to go to medical school comparatively. Like nowadays, it's crazy how hard it is. But for like, I wouldn't have gotten in today's world. My marks weren't good enough. My activities weren't good enough. I just kind of did school, and that was it. So I trained at U of A in Edmonton, sort of undergrad and medical school. Then I went for a year to Akron, Ohio as an internship year. I met my wife, and they were doing these couples matches. So we did that, and then we came back, and I finished a year of family. So I actually worked as a doctor for about 5 years. I started doing like rural locums, then I did emergency room work, and then I did geriatrics. It was kind of funny, family medicine and geriatrics, because the clinic I was in had a geriatrics sort of practice, and so I just started seeing geriatric patients and started working at the geriatric hospital, and then eventually retired about 1999. That was my end point.
So for you, was becoming a medical doctor, was that something that you kind of found yourself, becoming as you went through school, or was it a passion early on in life, or something that you really wanted to accomplish?
Yeah, it was definitely a little bit of a passion. Like I wanted to do it and I wanted to accomplish it. And I mean, I found myself in a position where I could do it. So I thought, oh, why not? It was funny though, because I always tell the story of when I did my med school interviews. They were like, okay, if you aren't a doctor, you failed, you don't get in, what are you going to do? I goes, oh, I'm going to become a professional snowboarder. And they're like, what? And this was 1987, and I'd had two like offers, from like very, very loose offers to say, hey, come on our snowboarding team and snowboard around North America, because I was in the group of the early adopter snowboarders back in the day. And so I clarify with people what that means, is they give you a board and they buy your way into two tournaments, and that's or two competitions. That's what sponsorship was in the 80s. So
Yeah.
and I kind of like I was not like I like to do a variety of things, and I mean, if medicine didn't work, then I would have probably figured something else out.
Yeah. Has that been that philosophy of, if this doesn't work, I'll figure something out? Have you always had that? Like, because I think a lot of people, they kind of define who they want to be, and if that doesn't work out, their world crumbles. It seems like that's never been an issue for you.
No, it hasn't. I mean, I feel I have a certain confidence that I can learn anything and kind of try anything. I'm not, and the key thing for me, I always also know I'm never the best at it. So like,
Hmm.
when we if I do a thing and learn it new and start doing it, I mean, I know I'm not going to be the best. And so I kind of go in as long as I'm good enough to do it. And then I can learn from there. So yeah, I always felt confident I could like change directions. And I mean, it's a certain like I mean, I'm not sure if it's confidence, or it's just like lack of fear of failure. Like, I mean, I fail on lots of stuff, but,
Yeah,
it's more that I feel like I can learn stuff.
absolutely. You said 99, you left
Yeah.
medical
Yeah.
practice. So is that when you started, or I guess were you? I believe you were saying that you were kind of creating BioWare as well as being a medical doctor at the same
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
So maybe let's talk a little bit about what BioWare is and how that came to be.
Yeah, no. So BioWare is a video games company. And it was funny. My partners and I, two partners from medical school, Ray Musica and Augustine, yep, three of us want to make it. Actually started almost more as a medical education software company, or at least it was kind of hybrid. Like we wanted to make medical education software. We're in medical school. Um, again, this was in like the very like I graduated from medical school in 1992, so we're talking about the late 80s, early 90s, and they were
Mhm.
giving us these really crappy programs to learn on, and we were like, we can make something like, 'cause we were kind of we were um, sort of amateur programmers and had made software, so we're like, because that just was our, like, that was the thing. Is the funny thing for me is I was doing computer stuff since I was a little kid, but never imagined that could be a career. So when I
Right.
went to university, I never thought, oh, computers are a route you took. Like I had a friend that did computers, like, and he got a BSc in comp sci, and we're all like, what are you gonna do? Be a professor? There's no, this was like 1990, he graduated. There's no future in that. What are you gonna do? And then he joined Microsoft and retired like 10 years later, right? So,
Yeah.
like, God, that was very smart. um,
Yes.
so I didn't really imagine that was a direction. So I went to medicine, and then I started adding in computer stuff into medicine. And then by doing that, we made actually some software that the school used and went across Canada. And on graduation from medical school, I actually had applied to computer engineering at the U of A, and I was accepted into second year, so I could go right into computer engineering, get a BEng in computer science, or compute, like I think computer engineering they'd call it. But then that's when we started BioWare, and I kind of like said, well, actually, I'm going to stick with the video game company. And so so that was like 92, 93 was when we were kind of getting started, but we didn't really incorporate till 95,
Okay.
1995. And so that was the official incorporation date of the company, and we just started making our first game, which was called Shattered Steel. A big learning curve, getting back into the idea of like try and learn, um, learning from nothing. But the key thing for us is we found a lot of really great people to work with. Like that was always one of what I have a couple. You'll hear a couple themes in my conversation. It's like, number one, I'm not afraid to try things. Number two, I try and find people that are really good at doing those things to help and actually
Yes.
really make it. Like I'm not a great programmer. I learned very early on I'm a fairly poor programmer. So I'm like, well, I don't want to be a pro. I shouldn't be the key programmer in the company if I'm a bad programmer. And so like
Right.
that's the thing, is like when I learn something, I go, I'm not actually that good at that. Like I can do it, I'm
Mhm.
not good. So that was kind of how BioWare started, was we started making stuff. And so Shattered Steel was our first game, then Baldur's Gate was our second. And that coincided with me leaving medicine. So Baldur's Gate, the original, came out in 1998 in December. And it was really funny because it was a massive hit, like massive, but we didn't know. Back in those days, there was no box office. There was no, like, there's no weekly box office results. There's no like integrated sales results off computers at the till. Like you'd have to wait for these pieces of paper to go back to your publisher and say, hey, we want 100 more of these boxes. And it was all like analog, right? Like that was even though it was computer games, everything ran
Yeah.
analog. So about 6 months in, our publisher calls us, goes, hey, you guys are like making money. It's selling. It's doing really well. So we really kind of, that was the point at which I go, okay, if this is making money, we can continue doing this. I'll take a break. It wasn't even like, quit medicine in a sense, but like took a break from it to see what would happen. And it just kind of, the game kept selling, the machine kept running. So it was pretty amazing.
That's so cool. So I am not a gamer, so maybe some of my questions will be like fairly dumb. But when you're making these games, what platform are you making them for?
So we started primarily as a PC developer. So we worked on our very first game was on like the pre-Windows PCs, learning what's called MS-DOS. The
Hmm.
original Baldur's Gate was Windows 3.1, so the very first version of Windows that was sort of publicly available. And then later on, as BioWare got more mature, we started doing console, and we kind of shifted almost more to console. Like we actually worked. Our first console was actually Sega Dreamcast for a game called MDK2. And then we worked on everything: PlayStation, Xbox. We never really worked on Switch in those days, or any of the Nintendo platforms. But yeah, we did PC. We did everything. Did a little bit of work on handhelds. Kind of like explored a lot, tried a lot, and then finally, like our last couple of games are big. They're multi-platform, like on everything basically. And
Right.
it worked with Microsoft, worked with LucasArts, Lucasfilm. And then finally we got bought by EA, and that was kind of like I wouldn't say the beginning of the end, but we kind of did our time there, made some really great games, and then said, hey, that's it. I'm out. I didn't really like working in a big company because for me, like, it's funny, the title of your podcast, Create.
Mhm.
I discovered later as I got older, like making stuff, creating things,
Mhm.
building things, and big companies, they like to put you in a box, and they don't let you can build in that box, but they don't let you like get out of that box. And so I
Yeah.
was like, well, I don't want to be in a place which puts me in a box, and so I want to have freedom and flexibility to do what I want to do. So that's kind of how I kind of left the games business. I kind of did everything I wanted to do, and felt I'd accomplished quite a bit. And I thought, I was mid 40s at the time, so I was still pretty young. And my wife said I could have retired. I don't really know what, now I think about it, I don't even know what retirement means. Like, I'm not even sure
Yeah.
what that is. Like, I'm kind of retired, but not really, right?
I couldn't, yeah, it would be hard to imagine, especially at that age, what are you going to do every day? Just like, I mean, even if you like golf, you can't like golf,
Yeah, yeah.
or fishing, you can't like fishing that much.
Well, and you shouldn't, like, if you want it to be special, you can't do it every day. Like,
Exactly.
that's one of the things I like. Again, we talk. I'm an avid fly fisherman, but like, I also like not to do it all the time. In fact, I like to like space it out so it's more exciting when I get to. And yeah, no, and so like I kind of realized that I'm on a permanent life track of creating and building and making, and it doesn't have to be like giant. Like, the BioWare ended up being a very giant company. We had about 1,500 employees
Wow.
across the world. And that was, EA just kept loading stuff onto us, but we got really big and really, and that was probably the problem is like, I think, like, I tend to, and my business partner and I both similar, like, we're really ambitious and want to do everything. And at some point you realize it's better maybe do a little less and focus than do
Hmm.
too much. So my last game I worked on was Star Wars: The Old Republic. I'd kind of worked in Austin, Texas. I was 2 weeks back and forth between Austin
Hmm.
and Edmonton, and it was like a Star Wars game online, that released in, I think, end of 2011. And then, but that right after that, I'm like, okay, I'm out. I'm gonna leave. And I kind of made sure I left. I found a replacement, kind of set everything up, and just kind of like went into the sunset in 2012.
Right. So how much of a break did you take then before you um before you got back into it? And I guess was your next project the Beer Diaries?
Yeah. So, well, it was actually, that was semi concurrent, and so that was interesting because, like I said, I was living in Austin. I'd spent a couple of weeks in Austin, a couple of weeks in Edmonton. I go back and forth, which in retrospect really sucks, and I wouldn't recommend to anyone. I mean, Austin's a great city, but at the same time, like, my home was Edmonton, so I was kind of like really unmoored. But the nice thing about it was a whole bunch of us were doing this, like a bunch of people from all over North America were trying to finish this game from all over the US and Canada. And we all were stuck there essentially during the week. And I'd even stay on the weekends. I'm like, well, I got to figure out what to do. So I would actually visit breweries, and like, so I got to know a number of the brewers there, and just kind of like, I saw some of these breweries just as the craft revolution in Austin was starting in the 2010s. And that's when I got that, and so I kind of started the Beer Diaries before I left. But like, leaving the big job, like the BioWare job, was there, even though I was doing the Beer Diaries at the same time, I really almost took a 2 year break because I just was like, I think, so burnt out. Like, I didn't really realize that I was like super duper burnt out because, especially when you're running or working on an online game, it's always on. It's like, you can, at any moment, you can check what's going on in your game and go, oh, this is broken, or if there's got a, like, it's I think when I work on a project like that, I don't have great boundaries in terms of my personal time. And so I kind of like got burned out. And, I did the Beer Diaries for a little while. Like, I did sort of Austin, and I did Colorado, interviewed a bunch of people there. And then my wife was like, hey, you left EA because you travel too much, and now you want to make a beer show where you travel around interviewing brewers. That seemed like a good idea. I'm like, no, that's a terrible idea. And because I think for me, it was better not to do that. Like, I think just for well-being, and
Hmm.
for relationships and everything. And I mean, I kind of had got the bug to like make a brewery back in Edmonton. And this, again, it was pretty early. It was probably 2012. No, I put him in 2013. I was talking to, it was Funkworks in Fort Collins, and I just had this moment of like, these guys are both like I kind of realized, oh, I could do this. Not that I could do it as well as them, because they were super good at what they do. But they were, the one guy was an engineer that made bike frames. The other guy was an accountant, and so they weren't like one, but one guy was an award-winning home brewer. So I mean, he obviously was great at what he did. But
Hmm.
I just kind of went like, geez, like, maybe I could do this. And Edmonton's short of breweries. Like, this was when we had like two or three,
Hmm.
right? And Alberta was just at the beginning. So I yeah, so I kind of came back, and that's when I started to actually get a little more of a break and started looking at sort of um, trying to build something here, and it got way out of hand. Like,
Yeah, that's
just
the
my
other.
project,
That's another
my
theme I
project.
feel like.
Yeah, no, yeah, I get carried away, like, and I'm still kind of cautious. Like, I have a cautious streak, so I don't get carried to the away to the point where I totally blow everything up, but I get carried away a little bit. So, yeah, so I came back here and started the plans for the brewery.
So a couple of things going back to the to BioWare for a second is what strikes me is how much technology changed from when you started to when you left, because you were saying like at the beginning it was very difficult to track your success. It's like 6 months in, it's like, hey, you guys are doing pretty good, whereas by the time you leave, you can be making corrections, almost live, so it goes from like being very disconnected, and kind of doing it in a bubble to being connected to it 24 hours a day.
Yeah, no, it's actually incredible, like where we started, and it sort of continues. But I think I kind of left when it kind of got to one of the big inflection points.
Mm-hmm.
I almost like to create like make an analogy around like sort of fidelity of content. So like the graphics, how detailed the graphics are. Like, so when we made Baldur's Gate, like we had these little characters, and the original game they were two-dimensional pixels. They were like little maps that would rotate. So they were like, say, 64 pixels by 64 pixels. They had a finite kind of size.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time I left, that was approximately the size of the iris or on a character model, the same number of pixels. And, like it's like so unbelievably exponentially more complex. The tools got a lot better. Like, I think when we started, one of the interesting things was that there was no real way to learn how to do anything. Like, you just had to figure it out. Like, there was no
Mm-hmm.
tutorials. There's no YouTube to go, oh, how do you make a an image appear on the computer? Like now there's so many tools and so many platforms and things to do everything, but we had to kind of do it all from scratch. And so, yeah, and it's and I think and again, like I said, it wasn't me by any stretch that did that. It was the team, and we had I mean, I think the companies that were successful in that space were somewhat fearless. Like, they just kind of said, well, we're going to try this bigger thing, try this bigger thing, try this bigger thing. And you have lots of little failures along the way. We'd have projects that got canceled and things that didn't work out. But,
Mm-hmm.
um, in the big picture of things, the stuff we released all was really quite good and did really well. And, I have no regrets about my gaming career. Some people still ask, "Oh, would you ever go back to it?" I'm like, not really. Like, I still game. I was gaming a bit this morning before I came. That's why I was sweaty when I came in. I came in a lot. I was doing a little bit of gaming before I came. I got up early, did a little gaming before I came in. It's just for me. Like, but as far as like making, building, creating, I'm not sure I would do that anymore in games. I mean, business is fun too. Like, it's just as creative, right? Like, it's general
Absolutely.
business. Yeah.
So I'm curious because you with all your traveling that you did, um, why why did Edmonton still continue to be home for you?
That's a great question. Because a lot of people assume I don't live here, like, and I have been all over the world and all kinds of stuff, and I've been very, very fortunate. Like, it's kind of like so many places, seen so many things. It's my home. It's funny. Like, I'm from here. I was born here. I still have lots of friends here. A lot of family here. Like, I have some family elsewhere, but my folks are still here. And it's funny. Like, when you decide where you want to be, you have to think about what you can spend your time doing, and I mean what you
Mm-hmm.
prioritize, right? So for me, I prioritize time with friends, time with family. I like that my commute is literally a 15-minute bike ride to work. um so like I kind of I like um I could make things a lot more complex, but I've, if anything, kind of in recent few years trying to almost start simplifying more, like,
Mm-hmm.
just 'cause it's like, figure out what you like and do what you like and hang out with people you like. And it's, for me, it's Edmonton is very comfortable, convenient. I do travel a lot, so I mean, like, it's not like I don't go anywhere else. Like, I travel all over the world still. I don't do a lot of adventure travel. I do a lot of familiar or fishing themed travel. But yeah, I don't. I think for me, it's a great home base. Like, I really like it here.
Yeah.
And it's growing and evolving as a city. It's getting better and better all the time.
So when you were looking to create your own brewery, was there ever a question that it would be somewhere else, or was it always, if I do this, it will be in Edmonton?
Yeah, it was. I didn't even think about doing it anywhere else. It never dawned on me. Like, didn't even cross my mind. I thought I always knew I would do it here.
Hmm.
But what I end up like, but I don't like. It's funny. Like, if you said I'd have what I have now when I started, like I wouldn't have imagined like this end point, and this maybe midpoint on whatever
Hmm.
journey I'm on. Like, I kind of thought, oh, I'll have like a little neighborhood brewery and just like kind of fun little place to hang out and have beers. And like, I think the ones that really struck me were a few of them in Denver. Like, I think there's one I can't remember what it was called, Renegade or something like that. Like, there's a few in Denver that like they were cool because they were just like smallish breweries, tap rooms. They were in neighborhoods, and that was the thing that really inspired me, is putting a brewery into a neighborhood. Because like, at least in Alberta, there were brew pubs, but none of us really like understood what those were. Like, I wasn't really
Hmm.
as versed, even though I was in kind of reviewing beer at the time. But then all the breweries were in industrial zones, and they had really no tap rooms to speak of, right? So I kind of saw this future in Denver and Austin that I want to bring back to Edmonton. So that's what I did. And then when I built the first brewery, the one associated with beer, the sort of what we call the market brewery in later years, was you couldn't build a brewery in the neighborhood when I was starting. Like, the zoning didn't allow it, but you could make a restaurant and you could like sneak a brewery into your restaurant and call it's a restaurant. There's happens to be a brewery there, but it's mainly a restaurant, and that
Right.
would be that was acceptable from a zoning perspective. So that was kind of like the how it all started. And so I was kind of looking for, well, I looked a bit on White Ave and I had some thoughts there, and I didn't really know, like it's funny, like I don't really go into a project with like it all figured out. Like, I don't like I allow for sort of changes, or allow for the people that are involved also to help shape it, because if they're going to be involved in it, like I don't just say I'm going to create this box for you to work in, because I know I never liked that. So like working
Right.
like you're working like with Doug, for example, the Monolith, like he designs some of his own world, right? And I help support that within reason, of course. But that's just how I work, and that's how we made games. Like, it's the same theme. I just do the same thing over and over again, like with
Right.
different
Right.
people in different fields, and it's just like I'm a one trick pony.
Well, but the trick is like, I mean, that's one of the things that I think has worked really well for you is the way that your philosophy with how you build a team, like you said. So, and I want to talk about your team because I've always been really fascinated. I've become really good friends with Doug over the years, uh, one of your brewers, and it just, I think the way that you have built your team has, allowed you to be very successful. So what would you say your philosophy is when it comes to building a team?
I think I try and find people that are, like, it's one of those funny things, is like they say, hey, passion overrides talent. But I mean, if you can find both of those, passion and talent, then that is like the uh is like kind of the most important thing. And I'm not sure, am I allowed to swear on the podcast or no? Very
Absolutely.
light swearing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, just like it's funny because we use the term "give a shit" factor, right? Like,
Right.
people who like care, like if they give a shit, if they care, if you're gonna be like, if when Austin was the taproom manager, I want Austin to feel like it's his taproom, right? So,
Hmm.
like, yeah, when Doug's the head brewer at the Monolith, I want him to feel like it's his brewery. And Christina was a chef at Beer, then Davina later, I want them to feel that that's their restaurant, right? So
Hmm.
I kind of find like people that like um really do care, like they're super engaged in their craft, like, and I think that's like, and that's almost the no-brainer. But then the trick is like, how do you balance them, like work with them to kind of evolve, like, because a lot of times when people are so deep in their own area, they kind of neglect or don't care about other ones. So you kind of, because there's the first is selecting the people, and then is like kind of the managing the team, like it's like being a coach. And that's how
Yeah.
I imagine a lot of what my job is on the team, is to coach, because there's invariably interpersonal relationship issues, or like challenges, or limited resources, people are fighting for them. So you spend a lot of time kind of managing the interpersonal relationships, and that's what I
Yeah.
spend a lot doing.
So, okay, so I want to kind of step back a little bit because I really want to kind of understand fully where Blind Enthusiasm started and sort of how it's evolved as its own kind
Yeah,
of concept. So, when you talk about the Beer Diaries, and
yeah,
when I first met you, you were the president of the Alberta Small Brewers Association.
yeah.
So, were you doing those things? I'm curious. Were you overtly almost researching in those roles, or was it something in hindsight was like, oh, that all made for really good research when I was going to do my own
So
brewery?
Beer Diaries, not at all. Beer Diaries
Yeah.
just like, I'm really interested in this. Like I like entrepreneurship. I thought the people that made breweries were kind of crazy. Like one thing that's really crazy in a good way, right? Like really creative. Like
Yeah.
I use this term like, and in some fields it's bad. So is bad if you call someone a kook. That means they're a poser. But I like people that are kooks. And what a kook is in my world is someone that just does something really unique and interesting. And what I discovered is most brewery people who started breweries, like they weren't like these shrewd business people that had this like sharp mind for like, oh, I know I can make a big profit. It's like I just want to make really cool beer and share it with people. And
Mhm.
so I like that's what the Beer Diaries was. And so really there was no ulterior motive whatsoever with the Beer Diaries. And it wasn't until like, because like, so the conversation I'd had at Funkworks was like most of the way through the second season. And I was like, oh, because and at that point I already knew I was done. Like I kind of like maybe in my subconsciously I was like starting to like, okay, now I'm building the bridge to the next thing.
Mhm.
And so I kind of was like, oh, okay, yeah, actually, you know what? I could do this. And I mean, it's funny too, because when you just like homebrew, the one friend of mine's a really great home brewer. I homebrewed with him, and I'm like, man, he can make really good beer. Like, you can make good beer. Who knew? And like, it's really funny. Like, until you do it, you don't realize, oh, you can make it. The trick is making it consistently, but that's a whole other story. But then when it came to the Brewers Association, it's definitely partially a research on the industry. I mean, also I think it was an opportunity to get familiar with the people and the players and learn
Mhm.
about how it worked. It also like, I mean, they needed help, like they needed someone to do it, and I was kind of like the
Mhm.
perfect candidate to start it. Because I kind of had interest in the space, had some familiarity, had the time, and like kind of had the business background to kind of help. Like, because it kind of had already started. What had happened was like the organization. It's kind of a funny story. Um, like this is like Big Rock and Drummond and Alley Cat. There was a very small number, like Bear Hill, like Brett and Sock were involved. Like very very small group. There was literally like 8 or 9 breweries when we started, and this was in
Mhm.
like 2013, very early. And so it's a very small group. And then like I come back, I actually met when I was doing the Beer Diaries, the head of Texas Brewers Guild, and they were super actively lobbying the government in Texas. And I kind of thought, oh, we should do this in Alberta, because there's some dumb stuff like this, like you can't have a brewery in a neighborhood and all this stuff in Alberta, right? So I came back and I'd met Neil from Alley Cat a couple times. I was chatting with him. He goes, oh, do you want to like come to a meeting and we can like you can talk to we need an exec director. We'd actually they'd already formed the organization. They had the paperwork done, but they didn't have anyone in the seat. So I went to this meeting at Drummond in Red Deer, and I think also, if I remember correctly, Grizzly Paw was there. There's a few other people. Like it was a small group of folks,
Mhm.
and they were like, and but halfway through the meeting, Neil's like, I think we've seen all we need to see. Is Greg? Let's acclaim Greg the exec director. I'm like, whoa! I never said I would do it. Like it
It
was really
sounds like
funny.
him.
Oh, it's hilarious. And I'm like, okay, yeah. I mean, I'm here because I'm interested. So yeah, we did it, right. So I was acclaimed the exec director of the association, and then yeah, then it was really interesting. I mean, I was again, I always see myself as really fortunate because I was there through those first 2 years, and it just kind of blew up into a crazy, huge industry, right? Like
Mhm.
it's like it went like. I think by the time I left, there's maybe 30, 40 breweries. And that actually was really fun because I would like talk to all the new ones. They'd call me up and I'd talk to them about how the industry worked and how yeah. And so along the way, I realized, oh, this is also really good because I knew I was going to do this. And I sort of said, hey, when my stuff starts getting real, like I actually start construction or start getting going on it, I'll step down. We'll find someone else. Like I was very upfront
Mhm.
about that. And so I think I did like 2 years or so. But there's those 2 years where it's just kind of really the ball just started rolling, and then Terry Rock took over for me and he did a phenomenal job. Like it's really funny because I think I always look at the sort of the Brewers Association, that each person that kind of came in had a different kind of angle and how they approach things. They brought different value, and it just sort of I was good at establishing. I wasn't good at kind of like growing.
Mhm.
Terry was amazing at growing, but we needed a little more tightness in terms of finance and stuff like that. So like Barb from Big Rock helped for a bit, and then Mike Neal, and then like Blair, of course, now is sort of it's kind of a combined of all those things, and so it's really interesting how that organization evolved. So I was really happy to get it started, but it was not like I'm never Machiavellian in the sense I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
I learned
yeah.
everything, but it was definitely I realized the benefit, and I
Mhm.
did it 'cause it was beneficial, and it was kind of mutually beneficial. So, um,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So you decide to start Blind Enthusiasm. Let's just start with the name. Where does the name Blind Enthusiasm come from?
Well, if you listen to the conversation thus far, that's me,
Yeah.
Blind Enthusiasm. So, it was really funny. I did I'll occasionally do a little bit of actually analytic work. I have the capability, but I just sort of, and I kind of like thought about names, like the brewery names are like geographic, like downtown brewing or like Ritchie Brewing Company. Like I could have been the Ritchie Brewing Company or
Hmm.
the Ritchie neighborhood in Edmonton. They're sort of geographic, or they're often like beer themed, like Hop Kings or like whatever. Like there's monk various monk incarnations, or they're kind of like these word soup. Kind of like Jester King was one of the ones that I remember. Like that doesn't, it's just kind of two words put together. So I thought, okay, I'll go for two words put together, and then I kind of came up with Blind Enthusiasm, and that was one of the few things I did kind of just myself. Like I kind of like because I kind of got that started, and then the I went to like there's these local designers called Paper Leaf. They've since been purchased, but the main guy there, guy named Jeff Archibald, I worked with him to kind of develop the identity, and this is the funny shirt because it is sort of this eye, but this was our skateboarding themed. We kind of like playing upon our because we have a very I wouldn't say like sort of not corporate, but very like structured identity, right? Like it's very
Hmm.
structured and consistent. But then every once in a while we like to take and kind of like turn it on its head, like with something like this. So, but we kind of like created that identity, and then just kind of ran with it. And I mean, the other part of it I always say, and it kind of, even though I'm blindly enthusiastic about stuff, I still have some kind of caution, and part of the trick is I get friends and teammates to help me sort of stay reined in and not get out of control. So that's kind of the idea, is that you hire great folks to make sure you can execute and don't do dumb stuff. So that's kind
Yeah.
of where the name comes from.
So your first building was Ritchie Market, right?
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what was the original vision? Because the Monolith, and obviously correct me if I'm wrong, I don't feel like the Monolith was necessarily part of the initial vision.
No, you're 100% correct. That's right. So really, like I said, my goal, I wanted a brewery in a neighborhood.
Hmm.
City says, okay, if you make a brewery in the neighborhood, um, brewery in a neighborhood, you have to have a restaurant, and it has to slip into that restaurant. I'm like, okay, so I'll make a restaurant somewhere. Initially, I was looking at leasing spaces and leasing. And then, I mean, I was very fortunate when we sold BioWare. Like I don't think it's a big surprise. I financially did very well. So it's like, well, I could use some of that money to build a building to have my brewery. And that's when things got out of hand. Uh, Cause and then again, not out of hand, bad out of hand, but like out of hand, right? Like, and that's when
Yeah.
like, and Paul from Transcend Coffee is like, hey, I need a new place. Goes, how about we put my little place? And I goes, yeah, that'd be great. He goes, oh, I know Acme across the street. And he goes, yeah, let's get Acme in there. And then originally it was this bike shop. This friend of mine, Calvin, at this bike shop we put in the space where Duchess is. So basically, it went from being like, hey, I just want with a brewery with a restaurant, a multi-use building with a big event space. And originally the event space was going to be a barrel room. Like that whole thing was going to be barrel space. And then that's when I connected up with Doug. So Doug, the head brewer and blender at the Monolith, he'd finished brewing school. He'd agreed to work with me when he was done. He worked at True de Diab for a year, and then because I wasn't ready, and he worked at Cantillon for a year, like a
Hmm.
season. And at the end of Cantillon, he agreed to come back. We were kind of talking the whole time, but he explained to me, and I'd visited him in Cantillon. He kind of showed me what was needed to accomplish, because like again, I tend to be very weirdly ambitious. I'm like, well, I want to make these complex, like at the time I thought in the sour beers. I like these like complex barrel fermented barrel sour beers. That's what I want to make. And he goes, okay, cool. Let me show you. Like, let's take you to the Temple of Cantillon and show you where it started, right? And
Hmm.
not, of course, there's other Belgian brewers that have been around longer and all the rest, but Cantillon is kind of like the pinnacle. So I learned that. He goes, okay, you need a lot of barrels. We need more space. So that's where the Monolith came in. He goes, okay, let's like, oh, I wasn't done yet. So I started like, okay, like now we built the Monolith, same thing. I built a custom building for this purpose, and so we have like 4 barrel rooms with probably four over 400 puncheons, like large format barrels, so we can create a lot of beer there. And that kind of like happened like a year and a half later, and I think we started brewing there 2018, and then then a couple of years ago, we're like, we're out of space. We never put bottles. We had this temporary space. Let's build a warehouse. So I'm now sitting 3 blocks away in our warehouse, 3 blocks south of the Monolith. And I'm like, and that was when I kind of said, okay, I gotta stop. I gotta stop doing this. And I mean, like, it's interesting because it's kind of like all efficient, and then it kind of like then it started regressing in a way. And I don't mean that negatively, but just like last year, like beer was very, very successful before COVID. Like we were
Mm-hmm.
cranking, it was doing really, really well. The brewery's going well. Beer was going really well. That was the restaurant brewery in the market, Red Ritchie Market. But after COVID, it never came back. It ended up being just kind of like hovering along. And then costs, I always explain how costs were just like going up and up and up and up. And then
Mm-hmm.
suddenly it's like, okay, we're not making money. And we tried all kinds of stuff, and no matter what we did, and it just wasn't going to work. And I mean, we intuitively knew, like, okay, it needs a reset, like a massive reset into something
Mm-hmm.
totally different. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm trying to, like, sell this incredibly difficult to sell beer at the Monolith while like doing a reset of a restaurant, and I'm like, that's just not practical. So I decided to shut it down. And unfortunately, the brewery kind of went with it, because the brewery was actually doing really well and the beers were amazing, and really happy with what we made. But like it was easier just to take that whole thing and just kind of lease it, and which we leased to for Campio, right? So there's
Mm-hmm.
Campio Ritchie here now. So, and they're doing wonderful. So I turned into a landlord, which isn't necessarily like, it's fine, but that's not what
Mm-hmm.
floats my boat, right? Like what floats my boat is building, creating, making. So this is like, so like I said, I'm here in our warehouse, in our little podcast studio.
Nice.
So yeah, so the Monolith is now our primary focus. And so we did make a little wine bar where in the Ritchie market, called Relish, which is kind of like wine bar beer sales, but also it's retail and it's sampling. So you can actually go in and take something off the shelf and try it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's been interesting, because people are really having a hard time getting their head around that concept, because it doesn't exist here. Most
Right.
places in the world, like, it's like, oh yeah, just grab a beer, and like, you can grab a beer from, like, in England, and there's all these like beer bars or actually beer shops where you can actually have the beer in the shop, and it's like, whoa, that's really weird. But no, that's what we're doing there too. So, but then the real focus though is like, Monolith beers, Monolith sales. That's my
Yeah.
that's my new mountain to climb.
So when you first started, I remember doing a tour. I was actually with Bruce Sample. Um,
Oh yeah.
yeah, we did a tour of the Ritchie market when you were first opening, and just getting to see Doug. Doug was there that day, and Rob, your other brewer. Is
Yeah,
Rob still with you? I haven't chatted with him for a while.
Rob is over at AL Architect now. So no, unfortunately,
Okay,
like, yeah, Rob, we had to kind of slim down, and
right.
Rob, but Rob's helping AL Architect now, so
Oh, good.
he's still in the
Um,
neighborhood.
yeah, exactly. I remember though doing that tour with them, and they were like just chest puffed out, so proud of what you guys had created together. And you talk about how you believe in letting your team be a part of the decision making process. You could tell as they were showing me and Bruce the brewery, it was as though they were showing you know us their brewery. There was absolutely no difference. They were proud of every little thing that was in there from the restaurant. They even showed us the tiles in the bathroom. It was like to every
Yeah,
detail.
yeah.
Like, yeah, it was I just that always struck me as so cool, the amount of pride that they had in the project. How did you, because I feel like you didn't accidentally land on those two brewers. What was the process in selecting those two guys?
Uh, so starting with Rob. Rob was a friend. So Rob Monk.
Mm-hmm.
Rob is a massive, lengthy history in the brewing industry. So
Mm-hmm.
he's actually been a lot of really interesting places. Rob is originally from Whitehorse, Yukon, and he actually started at Yukon Brewing, I think right after high school, and he was kind of working in the gift shop, then worked his way into the kind of production, kind of a like, and then he kind of wanted to move, because he'd been there a couple of years, and he actually ended up going to Victoria, and so far along the way he's in Calgary. I'm not sure the timing, but he ended up in Victoria, and he started working at Spinnaker's, and over like 5 or 6 years worked himself into the head brewer job at Spinnaker's, actually. So he ran Spinnaker's. For those that may not know, it was like, I think it's technically the second, but it's like the oldest running, second one started, but the second oldest running brew pub in Canada, in Victoria. Really cool, like English style place. And so Rob kind of ran that place for years, and then they rehired him at Yukon.
Okay.
And then they ran Yukon Brewing for a number of years as well, like, again, 5 or 6, 7, something like that. And I have a common friend, like, so it's kind of like, I kind of like always, like, for a lot of hires, I'm like asking around and asking people, and I'd interviewed like 3 or 4 different people for the job, and like there were people who knew, like I never posted it. So it's kind of a weird thing, but because I was in the industry, I knew brewers that might be interested and a lot of us asking around, but Rob was actually a friend of, one of my good beer buddies here in Edmonton. They were childhood friends. So he said, "Oh, Rob's looking to come down south." That's what they call it, from the coming down south, and
Yeah.
they're still not, but that's south relative. And so, yeah, we interviewed him, and and so, yeah, and I mean, he's like, and I, it's one of those things is like the moment you see someone that cares that much. Rob has an enormous heart, just like really puts everything into what he does, and really, really cares. And sometimes, it's his own detriment. He's such a lovely guy. He'll kind of beat himself up if something doesn't turn out. You're like, hey, sometimes things don't work out. Like that's just the reality. But
Yeah.
so I kind of knew that he'd be great for what we wanted. And it was fun. Like we worked together, and he kind of, I think, sort of like already came with an incredible brewing history and skill set, and expanded it more when we worked together. And then Doug was kind of similar. It was kind of funny. Doug was a funny one. Like I met him a couple times because he was going to Olds College, and he was at some of the some of the old beer events I was at in the early 20 teens. And then I actually had hired a consultant named Paul Hoyne and Paul was started Lighthouse in Victoria, and he was a consultant, and he was helping me. But that was because I was by myself. I'm like, okay, I need help designing a brewery. Like I don't know how to design a brewery, and so I hired Paul to help me out. And he was like, "Hey, I know this kid that I met him at Trou de Diable in Quebec, and he wants to make this kind of beer you're making, this kind of like spontaneous beer." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, well I should meet him." It turns out he's from Edmonton, so I met Doug, and I got to know him a little bit. And then before he went to, I think before he even went to, like, he had a sort of I wouldn't say a visa issue, but it just took a little while before he went to Trou de Diable, before he went to Canton. We agreed to him come work for me afterwards. Like he kind of was entertaining some options, and so it was again like so asking around, talking to people. And I think with Doug, it was like he had this vision of what he wanted to do, and it kind of correlated enough with mine that I was quite happy to kind of pursue that. And so that's kind of how it happened. And Doug, when he came back from Belgium, we kind of finished off building the breweries. And Doug and Rob at the market, but Doug at definitely the Monolith and some of the market and the warehouse, was very involved in the construction side of things and building it and stuff. So, it's not just brewing, but construction management, and he at this point is sort of running all the stuff at the Monolith now.
So the Monolith, so you've kind of consolidated a little bit, and a lot of your time and energy now, it sounds like, is full speed ahead with the Monolith.
Yeah.
What is, just for the, because not everybody is as into beer as you are, in terms of knowing the words. Just explain to us maybe what spontaneous beer is.
Yeah, for sure. So, stepping back one thing, like the world of beer has things called styles. So there's different styles of beer, and styles are these kind of, like, I would argue, very sort of semi-arbitrary categories to sort of classify beers. To some degree, they're also historical or geographic. So like you say something's a Kolsch or Kolsch style beer. Well, Kolsch is only made in Cologne. It's a very particular style of beer that's made in Cologne in a certain way, using certain ingredients and certain techniques. So there's all these different kind of styles. And that's one example. IPA, India Pale Ale, is another style. Now that's got 47 different variants as people have drilled into IPA in every imaginable way. Historically, there was this type of beer called lambic beer, and that was made in Belgium. It's interesting because I think there's a sort of perception that it was like really ancient, but it's actually a little more modern. Like it's not like it's a vestige of. There's this time before people knew how to make beer the way we know modern methods. Like they would use some kind of open vessel to cool it, and called a cool ship, because they knew that if the faster they could cool the beer, the better it would taste. Like if they cooled the beer really quickly, took it out of that cool ship, put it into a barrel, and barrels were used quite commonly in those years, like in the 1800s kind of thing. It would then ferment, and it would taste better if they did it quickly, and the beer would go better. So eventually they people discovered refrigeration. Engineers figured out kind of cross the sort of like chillers would have like counterflow chilling and ways to do it faster. But for some reason, some of the Belgians said, we're still going to use this old system, and we're going to still do everything the old fashioned way. And that's really what lambic beer is using these kind of traditional methods, cool ship, barrel fermentation, to make very complex beer. And so you can get a level of complexity, because modern beer is simply just, you get typically one yeast. put like one variety of yeast, put it into a stainless tank, sterile. It makes a single monoclonal kind of growth, and then it makes a beer, and it's very consistent. Whereas spontaneous beer is like it's up in the air. Like you never know for sure what's going into your vessels. So we kind of decided to make, like, again, in being blindly enthusiastic, the hardest, the slowest, the most complex, the least easy to explain beer, like the most difficult of all beers. We decided let's base our entire company on that.
Yeah.
Which is like I always joke during my tours, it's like it's a terrible business model. But what's interesting about it is once you get it up and running, which we have, it's like now it's consistently pumping out beer. So I can actually make quite a bit of beer each year. So using spontaneous and some mixed fermentation where we pitch the organisms ourselves. So the beer itself, it uses the air of Edmonton. We put the wort in after you make sort of the pre-beer liquids called wort. You open the windows, we have this fan system, it drops microorganisms that then what's called inoculate or kind of go into the beer and take hold and start fermenting, and then you put it into barrels. And many years later, up to like 1, 2, 3 year blends are common. We even have some 5-year blends coming. You have these, like, many years later, you have a really, really interesting beer with many layers of flavor that are not at all like a typical beer, but from a drinking perspective, they drink somewhere between like a champagne and a beer and a cider. Like it's got these really interesting fermentation notes and flavors. So long way of saying really complicated beer. that's why it's hard to explain. And it was really popular like in Belgium in sort of, I guess it'd be the 1900s and this period, and then now Belgium also became known for those Trappist ales. So those the monk based Trappist ales are the two, and the lambics are the two kind of main true Belgian kind of exports, so to speak. So we decided to do that.
No, and I love that because well, it's, I guess, the flip side of the coin. One is it makes your beer extremely unique.
Yeah.
But then that comes with the challenges of being extremely unique, right?
Yeah.
So aside from, everything that you just described, what are some of the challenges? Like, it seems to me that maybe your market is more niche than say like a typical lager or something like that. Is that fair to say?
Oh, exceptionally fair. It's very, very niche. And at some level, we have to create and build our market. We have to educate people. So one of the big challenges is just like selling it, and like, like where do you sell it? How do you make people interested in it? From our perspective, the biggest thing you can do is have people try it. If you try it, they're going to like, oh, I've tried it. That's really good. And so we do a lot of farmers markets. We do lots of tours. Like we do 4 tours a week at the brewery. So a lot of our time is spent educating, and then you get consistent customers. Within the world of beer, or there are a certain number of people that get what this is, and there's a reason why Cantillon was very popular in North America, because people that knew what it was really liked it, and still, I think it still remains popular, but I think it's not as popular as it was a little while ago. Like the spontaneous beers are not, people are not as enthusiastic. Like and I'm not sure why that is, but it could be price point. It could be like everyone's more into IPAs and lagers these days. And to be clear, we're really into lagers. That's what we did at our other brewery primarily. So lager. We always have one on at the Monolith, as well as our complex beers. But I think that it's I would say it's hard to make, but we've kind of got that pretty consistent. Like we've kind of got the making part really good.
Yeah.
And now it's just trying to find markets that will appreciate it. And I mean, I think we can only sell so much in Alberta and so much in Canada. Like, I mean, like it's like we're shipping all over the place. So like we do some direct shipping, but also we're in like BC, Saskatchewan, Quebec. I shipped a pallet to the Netherlands. We're doing a festival in the Netherlands, and we're sending a bunch of samples, and we're going to start developing a business over there. We can also do, in theory, direct to consumer in Europe across the whole EU, which we're going to look at. So it's kind of like, I always joke that if I can find 20,000 good customers that just want a 6-pack a year, I'm golden.
Yeah.
And the question is if you can find them at a reasonable price, and can I? I mean, the whole world should be able to. So
yeah,
let's like, that's kind of and I mean, I think that's maybe one of the things that the blindly enthusiastic is like thinking that that's a reasonable goal, where instead it could be just cranking lagers and fighting for taps locally. I just want to play a different kind of business game. There's different games you can play, right? So this is like the game I want to play is this sort of like export education, complex sort of. It's a lot of, and I think you have people that have to be passionate about it. Like I think at the end of the day, if you really just want to like the people that work for us are really passionate about this, and that's the only reason it works. If people like lost interest internally, it'd be like they'd be done, you know.
Yeah.
But we're willing to kind of like fight this fight for I don't know why, but for some reason,
Well, it's
just
so
because
funny
it's
because
really interesting. Yeah,
like when Doug does a tour, it's still as if he's doing the tour for the first time. Like you talk about passion, like when he's
yeah,
describing any room, when he's describing any process, it's like um, there's no thought of, oh man, this guy's really mailing it in. It is just like
yeah,
the
yeah.
passion is obvious.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I do the tours. I do tours too. Like I think Doug does a lot of the sort of industry tours. I do quite a few of our regular public tours. I mean, I've been doing about half of them in the last couple months because we're sort of training more people up to do them. And it's one for me. It's like if I come in and I don't want to do a tour, like it's over. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
that's quite sincerely how I feel about it. If I like, it's one thing. It's like, yeah, I gotta come in on a Sunday afternoon when I don't want to, but then when I do the
Yeah.
tour and there's people that are interested, I have a lot of fun doing it. I really enjoy there's a weird I think there's a weird dimension to anyone who does hospitality in any capacities. You do want to share stuff with people. Like I love sharing stuff, and I
Mhm.
mean in this case, in Blind Enthusiasm, it's our beer, right? Like the spontaneous beer in particular, it's just so incredibly unique and so incredibly special, so hard to make, and I think that like the whole idea of like it's a premium product, like it's a premium beer, like it's really really kind of driving that home more than we have been, because like I was literally talking to sort of the Chinese, some of the Chinese consul yesterday. So we're going to probably look at China as a market as well, for example. And they're saying, yeah, this is clearly premium. It's not like other beers. I go, no, and that's the benefit of it, right? Like
Mhm.
but I mean, that's not necessarily for everyone. Like I get that. Like I think at first I wouldn't say I was hurt when people didn't like it, but I'm just like, now I'm like, I don't care if you like it or not. Like I
Yeah.
used to have other beers and I'd have all these other ones. Now I'm like, oh, if you like it or you don't, like you can try some different ones. Maybe you'll find one you like, maybe not. Like
Yeah.
not everyone's gonna like everything you do. I think you have to kind of realize that as a hospitality person.
So I'm curious about what motivates you. I want to talk about awards. Are you, because there's one in particular that I really want to talk about, but just as a concept, um, are you motivated by, your beers becoming award winning or your company being acknowledged as award winning?
Yeah, that's a really interesting one because we do like. I mean, I do enter a lot of competitions. I enter a lot of them because we actually tend to do really well at them, and so if we didn't win them a lot, I wouldn't do them. But we actually tend to do really well. Sometimes we don't. Like there's times I'm like, oh man, I put my best beers in and we get nothing, because that's the nature of awards. Like I have like my certified level BJCP beer judging. I've judged competitions, and
Hmm.
I know how random they are. I kind of feel like awards are a vehicle to like acknowledge that you're good, and it's a way to kind of like it's a way to communicate to consumers that someone else who's an expert in beer thought you were good. One of the funny things, though, I would say in today's world is everyone's got awards. Like everyone's got like there's no every single brewery is award winning, because almost competitions are now structured so there's like 42 awards given out, and three levels of each of those, which I think is actually good. I think but I kind of feel like there's some that really matter to me, and I kind of like, I don't think I need them as much as I think it's valuable to like validate that we're good at what we do. um
Hmm.
there's one I really want, I haven't got yet, but I'll talk, I can talk about that one later.
Yeah, well, when you get it, let me know and we'll do a second podcast together. The award that I wanted to talk to you about was the Order of Canada.
Oh yeah, that one, yeah.
So how did that? Because it seems to me that okay. So how old were you when you received that?
50, 49. Like we got it right. I'm just trying to maybe 52. Like it happened. We got it like right before COVID.
Okay.
Because then you have your induction ceremony, but we couldn't do it because of COVID, right? Like, and they were doing it on video. We're like, I'm not gonna do it on video. I'll just wait. And I did my ceremony last year before, last couple of years. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I was just probably just over 50, I think, at that
So
time.
talk about that process. Like what was it awarded to you for, and
Yeah.
just what did that mean to you?
Um, that's interesting. So first off, like the thing with the Order of Canada is you have no concept you're even up for it. Like, so I
Right.
think that the process is like people will blindly nominate people, and they'll say, hey, this is a award I want to like this person should deserves it, and then they go do their own research, and then like the government general's office has people that research stuff, and kind of like then they do interviews. I don't know how they choose who they interview, but they interview people, and then they give it to you, and you're like, oh, okay. And it was total cold call. Like, I got this cold call on my cell phone. It was like, I still remember, it was really funny because I was sitting in Bira. We used to do a lot of the work during the day there, and I got this like GC-CC, some kind of weird number on my phone. I'm like, and I didn't like, I never answer my phone if it's someone I don't know. Like, literally, I never do. If they want to talk to me, they can leave a message. Otherwise, I never answer my phone. And then finally, I go, wow, they keep calling. This is weird. And then it's like someone from the Governor General's office saying, I want to please tell you that you've been awarded the Order of Canada. I'm like, what? Is this fake? Like, I thought literally someone was like punking me, right? Like, I thought someone had pulled a gag. And then finally I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And it was funny because both Ray and I got it. Ray Music, my business partner at BioWare. And I called Ray up and said, hey, you're going to get a call from this number. Answer it. He goes, why? Because you'll see. He goes, you sure? He goes, oh yeah. And so, like, cause like me, like he probably doesn't answer his phone either, I'm guessing. So I told him to answer it. So, yeah, we got it for like, contribution for video games primarily. Like,
Yeah.
I think our contribution. So there's kind of like a cultural category, and it's interesting because I think we may have been the first Canadians to ever get it for video games. I'm not certain about that, but I think we might be. And so it was basically because we did good stuff in gaming, which we did. Like, I mean, like, it sounds weird, but I'm not sure that that's the one I value the most. Like, I think the one we've had a couple awards over the years. Like, both Ray and I are in like the Academy of Interactive Sciences Hall of Fame, where the Lifetime Achievement Award of game developers. But I remember the one that really moved me the most was we got the Hall of Fame, the Hall of Fame at no, it was Interact. No, it was the Game Developer Conference, the Lifetime Achievement. We also won like Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic was like voted by all the gamers the best game of the year that year. So that's the one that really, like, all of like game development industry kind of voted our game the best, and that was the one that I'm like, wow. Not to say that I minimize in any way the Order of Canada or any other stuff, but that one was one that's like, wow, this is the one that really meant something, because it really was a recognition by our peers. I kind of like, it sounds weird, but I don't really care about recognition usually. I see the awards as like nice to have. Like, I don't do anything, like, I don't try and engineer anything to make them happen. They just kind of happen if I do good stuff. Order of Canada was really cool though. I did the induction ceremony, like I said, and it was neat to go to Rideau Hall and get the medal. And actually, it's funny, when I was looking for the headshots for this, you wanted some headshots. I found my old, like, me with the Governor General getting my little pin. I'm like, oh, I could use that one. It's like, and it's like, and so you get this, like, and but then afterward, you're like, I mean, I guess, I don't know, like, it's the day after you still have to do the dishes. Like I look at, like, I think you're still a person, and there's nothing, like, it's not that nothing changes, but like, fundamentally your life continues. And so as it was. And so don't let it go to your head. Like, there's no end point. And it's really funny within the Order of Canada, I got like the first level. I think it's member. There's 2 more levels. So if I really do something special, I can level up, but those are really hard to get. So, and I don't really care if I get them or not. And I'm not going to do anything, I think, meriting that. So that's fine. But, at the end of the day, the awards, like beer awards, are nice because they kind of like, hey, this is a good beer. Whereas the personal awards are nice because say, hey, you've done something good. But yeah, I don't know. I don't let them, they don't really go to my head. I just kind of like, it's funny because I think that Order of Canada is funny because they give you this little pin you can wear around, like this little small one. You have this big medal, like, you only win certain, they tell you the rules of when to wear it. Like, you only wear it certain occasions, certain days, like, and then you have this little pin. And some, like, I've never ever, I don't even know I think I know where my pin is, like these little pins that you can say, look at me. And that is still, I'm not really that showy. I'm more likely to wear a beer t-shirt than I am to wear my pin.
It's just funny because you've gotten these awards, the Order of Canada, these lifetime achievement awards. I feel like you're, that kind of speaks to the success you've had in life, in that usually I think of people being 80 years old and getting these awards. You're getting them in your 40s and early
Yeah.
50s.
Well, no, that was definitely the case. Some of the gaming ones, like I think I was like mid 40s, like when Ray and I, when we both got like the Academy Hall of Fame, and we were like we were the 13th people ever to get it. Like they do one a
Yeah.
year, and so that's pretty crazy. And then we were both looking at each other, and I said, "I guess we're done." Like I
Yeah. Are we even allowed to come back now?
now, like, can we still make games, or do we have to kind of? And we actually, ironically, left a couple years later, right? So like
Yeah.
around that time, we were kind of already on the way. But yeah, yeah, no, and I think it's like like we sort of like push hard, you get results, you do it again. Sometimes you don't get them right. Like I mean, like at the end of the day, like if this is with Blind Enthusiasm, like I mean, I know I'm satisfied because I made lots of people happy who've had our beer. Like and if we don't get to those soaring heights I've had before, that's okay.
Yeah.
I remember a funny story from actually a really good friend of mine from the games business, that he was our producer on the original Baldur's Gate. This guy named Fergus Urquhart. He's got a great name, great Scottish name, even though he's from California. And Fergus and I were chatting after, because he was the sort of producer on the publishing end for Baldur's Gate, the original, and it was a massive hit. Like it was a huge success. It's probably sold 20 million copies or some absurd number. It's been, and Baldur's Gate 3 came out recently, and that was like a massive hit. And we started that, and it's like, I mean, I go, hey, that's cool. But I remember when talking with Fergus about a year after Baldur's Gate, the original, came out, and he's like, what if this is the best game we ever make, and it's nothing ever achieves it again? And like he was really, it was like a really heart to heart kind of like, oh my God. And I go, well, and it is, and we made something great. At least we made something great. Like maybe we'll spend the rest of our life chasing greatness, but you can't let that go to your head. You just gotta, you got, in my mind, spend your life doing something you love, and then if it's great, it's great. And so like I said, the awards are weird for beer, because I kind of don't get them. I'm always mad if I don't get them, but then I'm not like, oh my God, I'm so happy I got this. I mean, the World Beer Cup ones are pretty amazing. Like we've had 4 World Beer Cup medals in the last 2 years, like 3 last year, 1 this year. So those are crazy. Because I think within the industry, they're kind of considered like the most prestigious, especially in the North American and some of the Europeans. But it doesn't. But like I thought, like everything would change the day after we got them, but not. Still grinding for sales, still as hard as it was. So it's like, that was a really good wake up call, because there's never any easy solution. Like there's no magic pill that suddenly everything's gonna be easy. And I think that's the one thing you learn in business. It's very rarely does it all just align easily, and it doesn't never, like it's always a grind.
And if you find success in one area, it doesn't mean that you're going to find success in another area. Like finding success in and of itself is so hard that to just assume, okay, well now I know how to do it and I'll just do it here. It doesn't translate like that almost ever. Yeah. So you said something. I was going to ask you what your philosophy is, but I should have written this down. You said, follow what you love, and if it's successful, then that's good. What is that your philosophy, or when you look at what you've learned over your lifetime so far, if you could distill it into something to share with people, what would that be?
It is like, it's interesting. I actually been thinking a bit about like how I don't actually have much of a philosophy. like I did meet someone recently who was actually, it was funny because someone came to town to do a talk, and they introduced us because, oh, you got the Order of Canada too, you should have lunch. I'm like, okay. And we did. It was fun. This person was really super interesting, and they had like this great philosophy, and like they're super engaging. I'm like, like I'm kind of like, like I just don't have like a here's my rules of living kind of thing, like, or whatever it is. Like I just don't have that. I kind of think like, just like really, like just give it all, like find something you love. Like, I mean, there's an economic reality too for people. So there's times where you have to kind of take the job or do the thing which is economically beneficial. Like you can't sort of like follow your passion forever and not be able to support yourself or your family or whatever. But, wherever you can, try and carve out that thing you love. And, it doesn't have to be business oriented either, right? Like it's like, for me, like for whatever reason, like building literally and figurative, like literally metaphorically building physically buildings. I don't like to build buildings. Like that's not what I wanted. I'm not a developer, but I build them to have a business that I want to create. And the business itself is this ephemeral, kind of like it's not a thing either. It's sort of a construct of the people and the culture. So it's kind of like just try and, I mean, I just do stuff I'm interested in and
Yeah.
have fun with. And if I don't have fun, then that's when it's over, right? And that's what happened
Yeah.
in gaming. Like I was kind of done. I wasn't having fun. And then it's easy for me then to pull the plug because it's like someone actually asked me, well, why do we do this? Why are we doing this? So I'm just like, because it's really interesting. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
such a difficult thing to do. And that's why, like you go back to like why do I fly fish? I fly fish because it's technically difficult and the fish are assholes a lot of the time. So it's like hard, right? I like doing things that are really difficult, and then succeeding to some degree at them. So
Absolutely. No,
so
it's
yeah, for other people, it's like, but it's kind of like find what you like, understand what floats your boat too, right? Like I think
yeah.
that's it wasn't until like literally until I was probably like 30s or 40 that I realized I like kind of making and building stuff. So I
Mhm.
kind of went, oh, okay, I like, this is what I like to do. Like I didn't know why I enjoyed BioWare so much, like because we were also so head down. I didn't really have time to think about like what what my philosophy was. But it's more like, okay, what price do I want to pay to do the things I want to do? Like what's the balance point there, right? So that's
Mhm.
kind of where how I live my life.
Yeah. No, it's been great. I mean, I don't know when we would have met, like
Oh, years ago,
earlier on,
of
yeah,
course.
2012 kind of thing, but it's been
Yeah,
maybe
probably.
earlier than that. But
Yeah.
watching you and getting to know your team and what you've created has been really, really cool. So, when I reimagined what my podcast was, and I want to talk to people who love to create things, and so you were
Awesome.
definitely. I'm just like, yeah, I need to talk to Greg. What you've created is amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your story.
My pleasure. I love that. I love that you have the passion for creating too. Like it's
Yeah,
it's once you have it, I don't think you ever lose it. And like creating another podcast and do some like reimagining it. It's like this what makes life worthwhile.
100%. Yeah, and I'll be up in Edmonton soon. September 13th, I'll be up in Edmonton
Okay.
for your
So
festival. But
yeah, yeah.
awesome. Thanks, Greg. I
All right, thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much for listening to the Create Podcast. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. See you next Wednesday.